I am going to tell you every little thing that you need to know to apply to college. Hey y'all, it's JC and I'm back with another video, and in today's video I'm going to be telling you everything that you need to know about applying to college. First of all, I want to say congratulations on taking that big step and deciding that college is something that you want to pursue. That is a really big deal, and I don't want you to ever let anyone convince you that it's not. At the time I'm filming this, it is July, which means it is about that time for college applications to open up. I applied to college last year and I know how stressful it can be, so I thought this video was super necessary to help you through your college application process. So on this channel, be on the lookout for more vlogs and stuff like that as I start college, but if you want more college application content, you need to follow Virtu College Planning on Instagram and TikTok. Virtu is an organization that I started with my friends that is dedicated to helping you get into college and have a stress-free college application process. On our TikTok and Instagram, we post tons of free resources and tips and tricks to help you get through the college application process. We also offer services such as essay editing, passion project coaching, college app essay review, SAT prep, and so much more. And our prices for those paid services are super affordable, but once again, we do have free resources and we do post tons of valuable content, so even if you're not interested in a paid service, I would check it out. And of course, disclaimer, I am not a college admissions officer. I do not know everything about applying to college, and everything that I am telling you, I am speaking from my personal experience. So I'm not gonna keep rambling. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Let's talk about how to prepare for applying to college before your senior year. So one thing that you definitely want to do is create a theme in your application. Colleges don't necessarily look for a well-rounded student. They look for a well-rounded class. By creating a theme in your application, you can create a spike that helps you stand out. Focus on leaving an impact with your extracurriculars. Don't just join 20 million clubs because you think it looks good. Focus on really leaving an impact and a legacy, and do something that genuinely matters to you. Don't just do it for college applications. If you come up with the college essay idea, write it down. That's what I did, and it saved me tons of time when I finally got to my senior year and it was time for me to write an essay. Challenge yourself with your classes and coursework. Take AP classes, take honors classes, take dual enrollment classes. I have a video comparing those, by the way, so go check that out. But go ahead and challenge yourself in these courses to prepare yourself to apply to college. Start thinking about what you want in college. Go ahead and start making your college list now, so when it comes time to apply to colleges, you know where you want to go and what you're looking for in a school. And also start applying to scholarships as soon as you can. That is something I regret doing, and I would recommend that to anyone, and I'm sure anybody that you ask in college now would say the same thing. There are scholarships for people of any grade. You don't just have to be a rising senior or a senior, so go ahead and start checking out the scholarships. And my most important point is to have a good time in high school. Do not spend your whole high school career trying to get into school, because that is what I did. And after I got into college, I just felt like, dang, I did all this and now I'm just here. Now, let's talk about the actual application. So first of all, let's talk about the platform. There are many platforms on which you can apply to college. First of all, there's the common application, which is pretty much the most common one. It's the one you'll hear people talk about the most because it's super easy to fill out your information once, like your demographic information, and then complete the specific school information, because this platform is where you're going to submit everything. So it's nice to be able to fill out information once and not have to keep repeating it for every application. There's also the coalition application, which is pretty similar to the common application, but it doesn't have as many schools on it for certain reasons. I think it has something to do with like financial aid and stuff. I'm not really sure, but coalition application is another one. There's also the black common application for HBCUs, and then schools have their own specific applications. Like I know MIT is one that has its own application, and then the UC schools, the University of California, have their own applications as well. So there are many different platforms that you can apply to college on, and I would really encourage you to do your research and determine which one is best for you. Some schools you have to apply to their own application, like MIT or the UCs, for example, but like some schools that are on the common app are also on the coalition app, so do your research and see which one is best for you. Applications open August 1st, but normally you can go ahead and fill out your demographic information before then. So if you have free time during the summer, this is a good time to sit down with your parents and fill this information out, because you might not know every single thing that they're asking. There are different deadlines for each application, so make sure you're keeping those organized in a calendar or a planner of some sort, because you will forget and they will get tangled up in your head. There's also different applications rounds that you can apply to, and I'm going to explain those here. So first application round that I'm going to talk about is early action. This is where you apply to a school early and you hear back early. These deadlines are normally around November, but they can be earlier. For example, University of Georgia, my school, for Georgia residents, the application deadline was October 15th. So make sure you're actually looking into that and not just taking the word that, oh, it's due in November, I have time to wait until November. Early action is not binding, meaning that if you get in, you're not required to go. And at some schools, you actually have an advantage if you apply early as opposed to regular. Also, you can apply to other schools while you're applying to a school early action. Next, there's early decision. Early decision is just like early action, except it is binding, meaning that if you get in, you have to go there. A lot of people apply early decision if they know that they're going to be able to afford that college using the school's financial aid. I'll talk about that later in the video though. While you're applying early decision, you can apply to other schools early action, but you can't apply to another school early decision. And then some schools have 2 early decision rounds. For example, University of Chicago. So like, let's say you don't get into early decision at one school, then you can apply to UChicago's ED2 round, and same rules as ED1, it's just a little later of a deadline. Then there's restrictive early action, and it kind of has some of the traits from early action and early decision. So first, REA is non-binding, meaning if you get in, you're not required to attend, but you can't apply to other schools if you apply to a school REA. I know a lot of Ivies have REA, like Yale, and then Stanford has REA. So I like to think of REA as just one school early action. And there's different rules and stipulations that kind of are school specific, so make sure you're looking into that if you're thinking about applying to these schools REA. So which is better? Honestly, it's up to you. If you have a dream school and you know you can afford it and you want to go there and nowhere else, apply ED. I say apply to early action to as many schools as possible so you can hear back earlier. Also, some schools have a bit of an advantage where they admit more of their class from their early rounds. But if, let's say, your test scores are not there, or you have an extracurricular that's really going to take off like in August, September, or you're trying to get your grades up for the first semester, then you might want to wait and apply regular decision. And regular decision deadlines are like December, beginning of January, and you hear back like March from the schools. But honestly, if there's an early action option and you want to apply to other schools, I say apply early action. I applied early action to every school in which I had the opportunity to, and I applied regular decision everywhere else. Okay. Now that we talked about the application, let's talk about the parts that go into the application. First things first, grades and test scores. So let's talk about the SAT and ACT. Most people start thinking about this and studying for it and taking it in the spring of their junior year. Personally, I started studying and kind of just looking into it earlier, but I did really focus on the test like end of junior year, summer of senior year. I recommend start earlier, honestly though, but that's what most people do. So how do you decide which one to take? What I recommend is to take a practice test of the SAT and the ACT under testing conditions so you can kind of get a vibe, see how you did, see what you think. Personally, I did not touch the ACT. I don't know anything about the ACT. I wish I would have. Like, I mean, I did well on the SAT, but I really had to grind and study for that. And it's a possibility that I could have done way better, way easier on the ACT, but I never even tried. So please try both. And in terms of studying, Khan Academy is a good resource. There's different prep books out there. People have strategies and stuff. Virtu, my college consulting organization, has an SAT prep service. So if you would like a personalized study plan, you can book that with us and we will get you right. So some schools, you have the opportunity to be test optional when you apply. Test optional basically means that you don't have to submit a score, but scores still are considered when they're evaluating your application. In my opinion, it's better to test and submit a good score instead of just not testing. So go ahead and take that test anyway, and then if you can't get a good score, then we should start thinking about test optional. So let's talk about if you should submit your score or not. I probably wouldn't submit your score if it is under the 25th percentile, unless your score is super unusual for your high school. For example, a lot of the schools that I was applying to, like the Ivies and things like that, I made a 1500, and while a 1500 is good, it was kind of the lower range for a lot of these schools. But because at my school, like, I literally had the highest SAT score at my school, and we don't really see 1500s often. I submitted my score. Because the thing is, when you submit your college applications, your counselor also submits like a school report, and they kind of explain like the academics at your school. So if they're seeing like, oh, her school people make 1,000s average and she made a 1,500, that's showing that you're like really making the best of your resources. Also, let's talk about when you don't submit. Admissions officers do not assume neutrality. So like, if I'm an admissions officer, I'm low-key gonna assume your score is bad if you didn't submit. So let's say like the average, like the 25th percentile is a 1420 and you made a 1410, just go ahead and submit that 1410, because even though your 1410 is lower than the 25th percentile, if you don't submit, your admissions officer doesn't even know you were close. Like if I was the admissions officer, I could assume that you had a 1200 and that's why you didn't submit, and in reality you had a 1410. Also, think about the strength of your application. Is the rest of your application strong? If you think that the rest of your application can compensate for not having an SAT score, then you don't have to submit. But if you are above the 50th percentile, please submit that score. If any of your like subsection scores start with a 7, so if you got a 700 and above on your reading or a 700 and above on your math, you might as well go ahead and submit. But once again, it's up to you, you decide. But just remember, these admissions officers are not assuming neutrality. So go ahead and test and study and try to get a good score. Now let's talk about grades. Really challenge yourself. Admissions officers would rather see a low A in a harder class than a perfect score in an easy class. But also, if you think the class is too hard to you for where you're gonna fail, don't take it. Don't destroy your GPA just because you want to look good by taking a hard class. Once again, when you're applying to college, your counselor will send a report of the classes your school offers, so don't worry about, oh, my school only offers 2 AP classes. Well, if you took both of those AP classes, you're gonna be okay. So how do these schools ask for your grades? Official transcripts. And these things take a while to send. So go ahead and request those official transcripts as soon as you know where you're applying, because it will take a little minute. But the good thing about Common App is that once your counselor submits your transcript once, they don't have to do it again for the other schools you're applying to. Now, let's talk about recommendations. Because your admissions officer can't meet you, they get a lot from your recommendations because that is a professional who knows you and has really interacted with you and gotten to learn from your personality. Ask for these recommendations as early as you can, because teachers are just like us and they're gonna procrastinate and they're gonna forget. You're gonna have to send a few reminders. So ask for them as early as you can. I'd recommend going to ask in person, but of course if you're shy, you can ask over an email. A recommendation letter speaks to so much, and I'm gonna read what I wrote on my notes so I don't forget it. The recommendation letter needs to speak to your personality, involvement in and outside of school, what type of student you are, your academic abilities, and how you interact with people, and just like what type of person you are overall. The best way to get all of this in a letter, literally tell them what you want. Like literally write it down. Tell them what you want them to talk about. Tell your teacher about some experiences in your class that you like, that you want them to talk about. Tell them your extracurriculars, your grades, your goals for the future. You need to tell them all of that. And literally a brag sheet is the best way to do this. I literally just made a Word document typing out all my classes, typing out my grades and my scores, typing out what I wanted to do, where I'm applying, all that jazz, and my teachers were able to write a recommendation for me. I will be posting on Vertu about recommendation letters because I think that is such an important part of your application. Please don't forget to follow us so you can learn more about that. Now let's talk about one of my favorite parts of the application, your extracurriculars. So because most colleges have a holistic review, they try their best not to reduce you to like a number in your grades and your test scores, and they do this by looking at things like your recommendations, your extracurriculars, and your essays. Extracurriculars are super important to your application, but because people know that they're super important, they tend to try to like go overboard on them. So there are 10 spots for extracurriculars on the Common App, and you do not have to fill up all 10. Do not feel compelled to fill up all 10 if you don't have 10 quality activities, because quality is better than quantity. When listing an extracurricular, you need to think about the longevity of it, your legacy, and your impact. And you also need to quantify your extracurriculars as well. It really kind of provides credibility in my opinion. So for example, instead of saying, I write articles for the school newspaper, you could be like, I've written over 100 articles that have been read by over 500 people weekly. Like that sounds so much better than just, I write articles. So try your best to quantify and really show the impact of the things that you're doing. Don't just say what you do, say how that has affected the people around you and things like that. Y'all, literally anything can be extracurricular. I think a lot of people just think that it can be clubs, but if you have a job, you can put that, like if you babysit or something, put that down. My YouTube channel was an extracurricular. Literally anything that you do that impacts other people is an extracurricular. And also, once again, let's circle back to the importance of the application theme. Once again, a school wants a well-rounded class, not a well-rounded student. So Find your spike and try to center all of your application contents around it. For me, my theme was kind of, I am a content creator who kind of sees the beauty in the world, and because I see the beauty in the world, I want to help people. That was my theme, and all my extracurriculars kind of tied into that. And once again, if you want to like know what extracurriculars I put on my application, I have a video about how I got into the schools I did, and I kind of tell my stats and everything like that. So go check that out. Let's talk about the part that scares people the most. Your essays. Essays are literally like so important in your application. I think we all know this because it really gives the admissions officers a sight into your personality. So let's break down the types of essays and tips and tricks for that. So the first essay that you have is your common application essay, and this essay is 650 words and it will be sent to every school you apply to. This is basically a personal statement. The prompts are always online, but honestly I say write first and decide a prompt later, but I'm gonna talk more about that in a second. All schools that you're applying to on the Common App are going to require this essay. And one of the tips I have for this essay is to not repeat something that you already have on your application. Admissions officers are trying to paint a whole picture of you, so don't keep repeating the same thing over and over again. They got it the first time they read it. The purpose of this essay is to let the admissions officers know about your beliefs and your values. They want to go deeper into your personality. Like, who are you? What makes you excited? What can you go on and on about for hours? What keeps you up at night? Why are you the way that you are? That was deep, low-key. A good essay can be about anything, but some things I would generally stay away from are mission trips, sports injuries, a hard class, topics that people have heard before. Because a lot of times, the admission officers have heard this and they know how it's going to end. And while this could have been like a big part in your life, I'm not trying to downplay that in any way. We've heard the story before and we don't want to hear it again. We want to know about you, not about a common trope that a lot of people have experienced. And one thing that I like to say is that mundane topics are really good about this. So if you have an obsession with knitting cat socks, like that sounds really strange, but you can really, topics like that force you to dig deep and be introspective and really explain and kind of go somewhere with it. And if you want me to make a video about essay tips, I can. Personally, reading my essay back, I think I could have done so much better. But eventually I will make an essay video once I get over the fear of sharing what I think was a terrible essay. So I would think my Common App essay was terrible, but you want to know what essays I don't think were terrible? My supplemental essays. So supplemental essays come on a school by school basis. Some schools don't even have any, but basically these are the individual questions that a school is asking. This is where you're going to spend the most time on your application. Most of these supplementals are shorter than your Common App essay, average about 250, 300 words, but some of them are long. Like for example, Cornell's supplemental essay is basically another Common App essay. Some of the essay topics for these supplements are way out there, like UChicago's, like one of UChicago's essay prompts last year was "What's so easy about pie?" That was a doozy. But some are as simple as why this school or why this major. I can make a video about essays if you want to. Like I could go on all day about college essays. But let's get into some general essay tips. If the question is school specific, be specific. If it's why school or why this major, you need to really tie in why this school, why this major. You should not be able to just copy and paste this essay and use it for every other school. This is one essay that you should be rewriting for every school, because I am all for reusing essays, but if they ask you why school, you better write a new essay. And also when they ask why major, they're not just trying to see why they should admit you, they're trying to see how you will fit into their school and how you use the resources there and how you will leave an impact on the school. So what I try to say is give and take. Talk about what you can get from them, but talk about what you can give back too. They like to see that. Also, write for fun. That's one way to get inspiration and think of good topics, but it also just gives you practice so that you're used to writing and answering questions about yourself, because you know in school we write so much but we don't really write about ourselves. So write a lot, journal, do other type of stuff, post on your spam on Instagram, do all that so that you can think of good essay topics. And when it comes to writing your essay, brain dump first and edit later. Sometimes we get really in our heads and we're like, this doesn't really sound how I want it to, and it's not going to when you first start. So dump first, put it together later. Read others' writing, but do not copy. Like, please just don't copy. Even if somebody doesn't recognize that you plagiarized it, it's gonna come back and bite you later. No cliches. Please stay away from cliches. Like essays where people do a recipe, like I'm a sprinkle of happiness and a dash of joy. Leave that alone. Also, leave the dictionary definitions alone, where it's like, the dictionary defines persistence as yada 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 yada. Those are boring. We've heard those before. Please do something else. Please don't try to be funny if you're not. I'm not funny, so I didn't try to be funny in my essays, and if I did, it probably would have left the admissions officers ready to reject me. Don't compare yourself to other people. Don't be like, I'm not like the others, because that just makes you sound pretentious and nobody wants to sound pretentious. All these essays need to paint a picture of you. For me, it was a self-confident content creator who loves to help people. And literally my Stanford admissions officer recognized that and literally sent me a note. She had pulled that exact theme out of my application because she mentioned it. Like, she literally mentioned how she felt that in my application. So it is really important to have those essays paint that picture of you. And lastly, writing your voice. Like, write how you talk. Writing your voice and really show your personality. There's a difference between using too much slang and writing how you talk, because we gotta put the thesaurus down. Like, if you don't talk with all these big words, don't use them in your application. Write conversationally and really show the type of person you are. Y'all see how I am right here? This showed in my application. Like, I literally wrote just like this. So use your voice, show your personality, because once again, these essays are here to paint a picture of you and show them who you are. Now let's talk about interviews. So some schools have interviews, especially a lot of the selective schools, and interviews don't really make or break your application, but if you're like a terrible person, it's gonna hurt your application, of course. Interviews are with alumni, and they're basically just like super cool casual conversations, and all of mine were on Zoom. I'm not sure if that was just like a COVID year thing, but yeah, all of mine were on Zoom. And you're pretty much trying to like sell yourself to them and kind of show the type of person that you are. They ask questions about like why you want to go to that school, what type of student you are, like what do you do, what type of grades you make, what are your goals. That's kind of the stuff that they ask you. This is also an opportunity for you to ask questions about the school and really see if you're interested in still attending there. Like, I think that they actually like to see you ask questions, so go ahead and have a list of questions. That's what I did. I had a list of questions I wanted to ask my person when I got on the interview. Also, a lot of the schools have practice questions or just like a gist of what they're going to ask you on their website, so go ahead and read that. And I don't really have as many tips on interviews, but just know that a bad interview is not the end of the world. For example, my scholarship interview for the scholarship that I am attending college on, I thought it went terrible. I thought it was bad. I thought they hated me. And literally after I got in, I got an email from my interview that said I was his favorite interview, and I thought it went so bad. So a bad interview is not the end of the world. Now let's talk about money, financial aid, and scholarships. First things first, fill out FAFSA when it opens every year. I think they kind of give out money on a first come first served basis, but also you're just gonna need it anyway when you're applying to the schools that you're applying to, so fill it out as soon as you can. You just need like your parents' tax information and you just fill it out. It tells you what to do and where to look for the information. You just gotta fill it out pretty much. Also, some schools will require the CSS profile, and some of them will also require that you submit documentation through iDoc. I don't remember what that stands for, but it's called iDoc. And y'all, the CSS profile gets pricey. Like, it's like $40 to fill out, period, and then you have to pay like $13 to send it to each school. And a lot of like Ivies and just higher ranked schools kind of require this document, so you have to do it like if you want financial aid. And it was a lot. Like, they were asking for every penny that you've ever touched, it felt like. So do that early, as soon as you can, because for me, I didn't know about it, and when it came time to doing it, I was doing it at the last minute trying to beat deadlines, and I didn't beat them, and I ended up with some bad financial aid at some of my schools. But also, I think if you get an SAT waiver like from your school, or you qualify for like free reduced lunch, you can also get a CSS waiver, so look into that. And then let's talk about how much school will cost, period. So a lot of colleges have net price calculators on their website that you can use to kind of see how much that school is going to cost for you by putting in some information. That's a good baseline to look at it. And some schools have like tuition policies for students whose parents who make a certain amount of money. So like, I think Stanford has like a policy where if you make under like $125,000, like you get free tuition. Some schools have policies like that, so look into that as well. And just make sure you're looking at a school's financial aid, because a lot of time we see the sticker price and we're like, whoa, that school costs $80,000, I can't go there. But the school guarantees a full ride to everybody who has this. Like, just look into that. And then of course there are scholarships. There's so many different types of scholarships. I'm going to school on an institution-based full ride scholarship, and there are just so many scholarships everywhere, and free money is out there for you. So I think that requires its own video, and if you would like a video on applying for scholarships and how to get them and yada yada, let me know. So now let's talk general application tips. First things first, stay organized. When I was applying to college, I had like a spreadsheet, a calendar, a notebook, I had all these things. But honestly, now that I'm here, this is not sponsored by the way, but I think Notion is literally like the best tool to organize all of that. And if you want a video on how I organize like my life and stuff with Notion, I'm gonna make that anyway, so you don't have to ask for it. But if you like want a college application specific vibe, you might have to ask for that, because I don't know if I'm gonna do that unless people actually want it. Also, fee waivers exist because this can get expensive super quick, so ask your school about that. I can't tell you specific information on that, but sometimes I heard like online, if you just like email the admissions office, they might give you a fee waiver. Like, try like your state schools and stuff. If you like just email and ask for a free fee waiver, they might give you one. There's also like No Fee November, where a lot of schools do no fees, and there's a lot of policies for that. I know like University of Chicago, their application was free if you were applying for financial aid, so I applied to there for free, and there's just so many things like that. So yeah, look into that. Next thing, choose your colleges wisely, really research the schools, and look into schools that you might not be interested in at first. I know personally, I'm going to the University of Georgia, and in the beginning, I did not want to go there, and now that I am going there, I wish I would have looked into it sooner. Like, I love you, GA. Go Dogs. Next thing, be realistic. If you struggled your way through school, then you might not need to be applying to Harvard. Like, just be realistic about what you want. If you were scared of airplanes, why are you trying to go to college across the country? Be realistic. Like, please just be realistic when you're making your college list. That means something different for every person, but be realistic. And lastly, this is something that I needed to hear, but prestige is not everything. You will be okay no matter where you go, guys. Like, you have that spark in you. Like, if you are a candidate for these schools, chances are you got something in you, and as long as you like continue to like facilitate that and grow it, you can do whatever you want to do. You don't need that school needs you. That is all I have for this video. I really hope you all enjoyed it. If you have any more questions, please let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to check out Virtue College Planning if you need help on any of the aspects in this application, because we are there to help you. We want you to get into your dream school, and we want you to just have a stress-free college application process. And while I can't guarantee that you will get into your dream school, I can guarantee that I will do everything to the best of my abilities to help you. So thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Until next time, bye. Mwah.